it's Kotlin Crew Community Talks. My name is Monica, and today my guest, Ulrik Stehling from Codecare Software, will talk more about the interesting projects that his company is working on and the capacity at which they are using Kotlin, because our series of interviews is supposed to promote that technology and show you why Kotlin is the right choice for you. Hello, Ulrik.
Hello.
Yeah, so I think the best way to start this conversation is if you could tell us something more about Codecare, the size of the company, what do you do, maybe some little story behind how it started.
We are a rather small development company. We're 12 people, and we are actually spent most of our time coding. We don't do anything except coding. We do run the systems, we do maintain them, but mostly I have my development environment open and am typing code. And we are doing rather the complex things, like operational systems running 24 hours a day for logistics companies. We did even one day do software which runs the cockpits of our Lufthansa planes. And so we're doing the complex, complicated stuff. And most projects we do are modernization projects. So we get some old code, which is 10 years old or 15 years old, and we try to keep it moving, to modernize it, to find the bugs, to put it back on a track where you can maintain old code. But sometimes we even do new code and start a project from scratch, which is nice as well.
Okay, interesting. And I think it's a big task if you have to modernize the old code, the like 10-year-old. We also do the similar thing at DAC Digital. And I know our developers are sometimes like, oh my God, why have we agreed? But eventually it works. But sometimes it's a hassle, especially if it was like poorly written and a long time ago.
Yeah, but this is something that changes. Code that was written 20 years ago, nobody did care about tests. All the testing frameworks were not invented yet. And it was state-of-the-art code 20 years ago, doesn't have any unit tests. Today, any code review would say that this is not good code, but the way to see code, to say this is good code or this is bad code, it has changed a lot, which brings us to Kotlin, actually.
Okay, it's such a smooth transition to Kotlin. So yeah, let's jump straight into the topic.
Yeah, we mostly did Java, and we're doing lots of Java, still doing lots of Java. But about 2 years ago, we started to move a bit of the company from Java to Kotlin. So we actually just took an existing Java project, a new one, and added modules in Kotlin, just to find out, is it good or is it bad, and what happens, how difficult is it, because nobody in our company really did know much about Kotlin. And we ended up with a mixed stack of Java code and Kotlin code. And in the beginning, we were quite, we have two programming languages in one project. This is not a very smart idea. And we don't know so much Kotlin. But it proved to be very smooth and motivating as well. If the development environment allows you to paste in Java code, it just changes it to Kotlin. Then you get Kotlin code, which is more or less Java code and Kotlin syntax, but still it's a good basis. And then I've got one colleague, he's over here, and he got into idiomatic Kotlin. So we are doing lots of code reviews to get clean code. He always said, Uli, there's a better way to do it. You did it the Java style, I'm going to teach you the Kotlin style. And after 10 code reviews from Philip, I knew a lot more idiomatic Kotlin, and the code got better. It was more easy to read. It was more easy to maintain. But the initial transition from Java to Kotlin takes 1 or 2 days. You just paste it in your IDE, say, I want a Kotlin file out of my Java file, and you wonder what happens, and you read it up and say, what does it mean? Why is this different? And what's this with immutability? That's a thing in Kotlin which does not really exist in Java. What is this nullability, which always gets you in Java? And not to have null pointers is so fantastic for a Java developer. You don't get any null pointer exceptions in Kotlin. This is just great. We were afraid of the migration in the beginning because there's no real sophisticated Kotlin developer here, and we all have to change. We get this dual stack mixed projects where you have to know 2 programming languages, which in the beginning sounds like a stupid idea. But now we have looked back after 2 years, did a big team meeting in a coffee shop, drank some coffee, and discussed, was it a good idea? Would we do it again? Would we take the same decisions again. And we all agreed as yes, it was a great idea. You can really mix Java and Kotlin quite well. You have to know some things. If you call Kotlin code from Java, it's a lot easier if you do the new modules in Kotlin and just have Kotlin modules calling Java modules. This is just almost for free if you do it the other way around. There's some things which are pitfalls, and you have to learn them. And it's not this nice to call Kotlin code from Java, but it can be done. You have to, mostly it's worth the trouble. Sometimes it's not. But in the end, we were happy that this transition was a lot easier than we expected it to be.
That's what I hear a lot from people, that they thought it would be harder.
Yep. And we end up with code which is more easy to read, which means it's more easy to maintain. It's more concise. You have a lot less lines doing the same that you would need in Java. And you can maintain it a lot better. And it's easier to write tests because the code is more compact, and it's easier to make a value container, a data class, it's called in Kotlin, to have a method signature which is more precise, concise, giving you the logic you want. And then it's easier to write a test. In Java, sometimes I don't want to do a new class which needs to implement hash code equals toString and so on. And you do some ways around it, like passing arrays or something like this. And in Kotlin, you write, the code looks a lot more like the thing you want to have. So that the business problem is more visible in Kotlin code than it is in Java code. There's more things that built around it in Java in order to get it to work. And in Kotlin, it's more the thing you really want, which makes it a lot easier to maintain, and this makes it more robust.
Okay, and it's interesting, you enumerated a lot of advantages from like the developer's perspective. And how does it translate to like the business's perspective, your clients, yeah? Because then you have a client coming with a problem that they need to solve. So why would, solving it using Kotlin be, the right choice? Like what are the benefits for the client if you do your job using Kotlin?
We're more productive. We've got more stable code, but it's quite an obstacle because they say Java is a thing. They get you can go to the university and hire Java developers. They learn Java at university. They don't learn Kotlin. And then they look up Kotlin and say, well, it's good for Android development, but we're not doing Android. Not at all. We're just doing server systems, which are normally written in Java. And we had to do a lot of we had to convince them to tell them it's better if we do Kotlin. You get more for your money if you let us use Kotlin. And we had to do big plus and minus lists. These are the advantages, the disadvantages, and we could not convince all customers. We still got a couple of people running Java, but most went this transition with us and agreed to the Kotlin stack, and they're happy.
So since like the team can be more productive and do more with less code, I believe it could be more cost efficient for the client. Yes. So what are the other like pluses that you convince them with?
Actually, it's not more than this. Better code written.
So this one speaks for like better code, bug-free, cheaper.
Less bugs. Nothing is ever bug-free, and we mostly charge by the hours it takes us to do something. And if it takes me 6 hours to build it in Java or 4 hours to build it in Kotlin,
then obviously for most of
the people, there's a customer gain.
Interesting. So maybe you could tell us something more about the projects you have delivered using either this dual approach or Kotlin itself. Anything especially interesting? You don't have to say the name of the company if you have any non-disclosure, but maybe just generally tell us about the use cases.
We did build 2 big systems which do customs declarations. So for anything, packages being imported to the EU or being exported from the EU. And we're actually handling packages by the plane load. So last year we did, I think, 15 million customs declarations, which is a really big stack. This is operational software which runs 24 hours a day. Mostly the planes arrive early in the morning, all customs done during the night. And one thing, we started in Java and we migrated to Kotlin, and half of the project is still in Java, and the newer modules are all in Kotlin. And the other one we built completely in Kotlin, which gave us a good vantage point to benchmark these 2 things. I could see we did build. They are quite similar in what they do, the systems, but due to customer reasons, they're separate systems. I can really compare the modules written in Kotlin and written in Java, which do more or less the same, and Kotlin really wins.
So anything else than that use case that is worth mentioning if it comes to the more complicated projects?
Yeah, all these projects we do in Kotlin are very business logic focused. So the technical things, we use some frameworks, for example, Spring Boot and queuing systems and queuing servers. And the technological complexity, which is in queuing, requeuing, error handling, retry, transactions, and so on, this is all handled on a technical base level. It's not the work we do every day. Every day we have to do the special business logic. What do I do if the data is faulty? What do I do if custom says you're not allowed to import this? I have to do an IREC, and the IREC needs to be transported to customer, and so on. This is it's more the business side we are programming. The technical side is mostly solved by the framework we use. Business logic code, it's nice to use language where you can see what's the logic you've typed in.
And I think we missed one information on the way. As you mentioned that you didn't have the Kotlin developers in the team at the beginning, and you decided to start adding the Kotlin code. So what was the trigger for that? What was the reason? I assume you observe the trends and see, what's happening on the market, but what was actually the reason you thought, okay, let's give it a try?
Curiosity.
Okay.
Well, we're always.
But that's interesting that it wasn't maybe like the very calculated decision, but more, okay, there's this new tech and I would like to give it a try.
We do lots of research here, and all my colleagues have half a day off every week to just learn things, play around with technologies, and get smarter. And one thing was, why don't we use Kotlin? We did use Golang a lot for programming servers as well. And Golang is very nice. If I can choose between Kotlin and Golang, it's going to be a difficult decision. But if you're in an environment where the Java stack is very present, where you have to connect to older technologies, for example, we use SOAP, which is a web interface language, which is not very common anymore. Now that all thing is in REST service, but custom says they have a SOAP service, so you have to use the technology. And you get lots of tools on the Java stack which handles this. You get no tools on the Golang stack. So we're always looking for new technologies which save us work, which are fun to play along. And we just made a small experiment with Kotlin. We found out it looks nice. Then we just dived into it and tried what would happen. And we're very surprised and very happily surprised.
Okay, so I think it pretty much summarizes, like the way to go forward, to just give things a try and see if they work. And especially, since you're doing something in Java already, I think it's an obvious choice to use a language that is compatible. So yeah, I think that's like I can assume, like based on what I've heard from you, that could be one of the pieces of advice for any tech company. If they want to go forward, they need to experiment. And I really love the idea of giving people a day off just to focus on self-improvement and maybe learning new things. And I think more companies should do something like that, especially if there's any standstill and, maybe, they have finished some projects, etc. And there is time before the beginning of the new ones to give them that space to find new things and experiment. I think that's a really powerful practice. And, apparently for your company, it worked. Because it took you far. Okay, so any other advice on like how to start with Kotlin, maybe for the developers and software houses if they're new to that thing? Like, what would you recommend?
From my point of view, Kotlin is really just modern Java. There's no big magic in there. If you were to redesign Java in a time machine, you would end up with Kotlin. So you don't need to be afraid to take the step to go from Java to Kotlin. Almost anything that you can build with Java, you can build with Kotlin, and it's easier to do it in Kotlin.
That's a perfect summary. And that's what mostly everyone who works with Kotlin says, that, if you can achieve the same thing, but using a tool that makes it easier and saves you time, then why not? So thank you very much for telling us more about codecare and the way you work, the way you transitioned to Kotlin. Obviously, to all of you who are watching us today, their website is linked below, and yeah, feel free to reach out to them if you're looking for somebody to deal with your complex idea. And yeah, thank you a lot.
Thank you, Monica.